What if I told you that the most powerful signal in your life has been reaching you for years, but you've never truly heard it? Not because it was hidden, but because you weren't ready to recognize it. Most people will spend their entire lives chasing answers, never realizing that the one thing capable of changing everything has been quietly surrounding them all along. Some call it intuition. Some call it awareness. Others never notice it at all. But those who finally tune into it often say the same thing. After that moment, life never looked the same again. So before you scroll away, ask yourself one question. What if this isn't just another video? What if this is the moment you finally unlock the hidden frequency that's been waiting for you all along? Let's begin. What if the most important thing you've been searching for wasn't hidden in some distant place, but quietly surrounding you every single day? Most people spend their lives waiting for something extraordinary to happen. They expect a dramatic sign, a perfect moment, or an unmistakable answer before they believe that change has begun. But the greatest shifts rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, hidden inside ordinary moments that seem too small to matter. A conversation that lingers in your mind, a sudden feeling that makes you pause, a lesson repeated through different experiences until you're finally ready to understand it. These moments are easy to overlook because they don't demand your attention. They simply wait for it. The hidden frequency isn't something that suddenly appears. It's something that has always been there, patiently waiting for someone willing to notice it. Imagine walking through a room where a beautiful melody is playing, but you're wearing headphones loud enough to drown it out. The music hasn't disappeared. You're simply unable to hear it. Life often works the same way. Constant distractions, endless worries, and the pressure to always keep moving can become the noise that prevents us from recognizing what truly matters. When your mind is filled with fear, doubt, or endless urgency, even the clearest moments of insight can pass unnoticed. But the instant you slow down, even for a moment, something changes. You begin to notice patterns that once looked random. You recognize opportunities hidden inside challenges. You realize that some of the answers you were chasing weren't missing at all. They were simply waiting for a quieter version of you to discover them. Perhaps that's why this message feels different today. Not because the world suddenly changed overnight, but because you have. Every challenge you've faced has shaped your perspective. Every disappointment has sharpened your understanding. Every season of uncertainty has prepared you to recognize what your past self could never fully see. The hidden frequency didn't suddenly begin transmitting today. It has been present through every chapter of your life, quietly inviting you to look beyond the obvious and see with greater awareness. But here's the mystery. If the frequency has always been there, why do so few people ever recognize it? Because the greatest obstacle was never the signal itself. It was the noise that kept you from hearing it. If the hidden frequency is always present, then why do so many people live their entire lives without ever recognizing it? The answer may be simpler than it seems. We are surrounded by constant noise. Not just the sounds we hear, but the endless stream of worries, expectations, distractions, and routines that fill our minds from the moment we wake up. We rush from one task to the next, always thinking about what comes tomorrow while barely noticing what is happening today. In that constant movement, something valuable is quietly lost. We become so focused on reacting to life that we stop observing it. And when awareness disappears, even the clearest opportunities can pass right in front of us unnoticed. The hidden frequency isn't absent. It's simply being drowned out by everything competing for our attention. Think about the last time you experienced a moment of complete silence. No notifications, no conversations, no pressure to solve another problem. Just a few quiet seconds where your mind had room to breathe. Those moments often feel uncomfortable at first because we're so accustomed to constant stimulation. Yet it's in those rare moments of stillness that many people suddenly notice something they had overlooked for months, or even years. A forgotten dream returns. A long-ignored question finally demands an answer. A new perspective quietly replaces an old fear. The world hasn't changed in those few minutes. The only difference is that the noise has become quiet enough for something deeper to be heard. Perhaps that's why awareness isn't something you chase. It is something you make space for. The more clutter we carry inside our minds, the harder it becomes to recognize what truly matters. But when we begin letting go of unnecessary fear, endless comparison, and the need to control everything, a different kind of clarity slowly appears. The hidden frequency doesn't force itself into your life. It patiently waits until your attention becomes stronger than your distractions. And when that happens, ordinary moments begin revealing extraordinary meaning. But here's the question almost nobody asks. What happens after someone finally hears the hidden frequency for the first time? Because once your awareness begins to change, the world you thought you knew may never look the same again. There comes a quiet moment in every person's life that almost never looks extraordinary. There are no flashing lights, no dramatic announcement, and no voice telling you that everything is about to change. In fact, if you weren't paying close attention, you might mistake it for just another ordinary day. But something feels different. A question you've carried for years suddenly seems easier to answer. A fear that once controlled your decisions begins to lose its power. A situation that once felt like the end of your story starts looking like the beginning of a new one. The world around you hasn't changed overnight, but the way you see it has. And sometimes that single shift in perspective becomes the moment that quietly changes everything. Most people believe transformation happens in one dramatic event. In reality, it usually unfolds through a series of small realizations. You begin noticing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That one change in thinking has the power to reshape every decision that follows. Challenges no longer feel like proof that you're on the wrong path. Instead, they become part of the journey that strengthens your character. You don't become fearless overnight, but you become more willing to move forward even when uncertainty is still present. That is the quiet power of awareness. It doesn't erase life's difficulties. It changes the way you respond to them. Perhaps this is what the hidden frequency has been leading you toward from the very beginning. Not a magical secret hidden somewhere outside your life, but a deeper understanding of the life you're already living. The frequency isn't changing the world around you. It is changing the way you experience it. And once that inner shift begins, familiar places feel different, old habits begin to fade, and possibilities that were always there finally come into focus. The greatest transformation isn't becoming someone else. It's finally recognizing the strength, wisdom, and clarity that have been growing inside you all along. But here's where the real mystery begins. If your awareness is finally changing, why does it feel as though something has been quietly waiting for this exact moment? Because some doors don't open when you find them. They open when you've become ready to walk through them. Have you ever wondered why two people can face the same opportunity, yet only one of them recognizes its true value? The difference is rarely intelligence, luck, or perfect timing. More often, it's preparation. Some doors in life don't open simply because you found them. They open because you've grown into the kind of person who is ready to step through them. Think back to a lesson you once rejected because you weren't ready to hear it. Months or years later, those exact same words suddenly carried a completely different meaning. The message hadn't changed. You had. Growth has a remarkable way of turning ordinary moments into extraordinary revelations. Not by changing the world around us, but by changing the person who is looking at it. Every challenge you've faced has been shaping you in ways you couldn't see at the time. The disappointments taught resilience. The uncertainty taught patience. The failures taught wisdom that success alone never could. Looking back, you may realize that if certain opportunities had arrived earlier, you might not have appreciated them, or even recognized them. Sometimes what feels like waiting is actually preparation. Life isn't always delaying your progress. Sometimes it's strengthening your perspective so that when the next chapter begins, you'll have the maturity, clarity, and courage to make the most of it. The waiting wasn't empty. It was quietly building the foundation beneath everything that's about to come. Perhaps this is what the hidden frequency has been guiding you toward all along. Not the promise of a perfect life, but the realization that real transformation begins within. The door you've been searching for has never been locked from the outside. It opens the moment you stop asking, "When will my life change?" and begin asking, "How have I changed because of everything I've lived through?" That single shift in perspective can transform the way you see every challenge, every opportunity, and every step ahead. The greatest breakthrough doesn't happen because the world suddenly becomes different. It happens because we know you can't do. But one final question remains. If the door only opens when you're ready, how do you know you've already stepped through it without even realizing it? Because the first sign isn't a change in your circumstances. It's a change in the way you see yourself. The greatest transformation doesn't begin when the world around you changes. It begins the moment the way you see yourself starts to change. For years, you may have defined yourself by your mistakes, your disappointments, or the opinions of other people. Every failure became proof that you weren't good enough. Every setback felt like evidence that you were falling behind. But what if those moments never had the power to define you? What if they were simply chapters in a much larger story? Chapters meant to teach, strengthen, and prepare you. The hidden frequency isn't about discovering a secret hidden somewhere outside your life. It's about uncovering a deeper understanding of the person you've quietly been becoming through every experience you've lived. Think about how different your decisions become when you stop seeing yourself as someone who is constantly lacking something. Fear begins to lose its influence. You stop waiting for permission to grow. Instead of comparing your journey to everyone else's, you begin appreciating the unique path that has shaped your perspective. Challenges no longer feel like personal attacks. They become opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and wisdom. You start trusting yourself a little more with every difficult decision you overcome. That quiet confidence isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It grows naturally because it is built on experience rather than certainty. The hidden frequency doesn't give you a new identity. It helps you recognize the strength that has been developing inside you all along. Perhaps that's why real awareness feels so different from temporary motivation. Motivation often fades when life becomes difficult. Awareness remains because it changes the lens through which you see every situation. You no longer measure your worth by how quickly things happen or by how perfectly life unfolds. Instead, you recognize that every challenge has contributed something valuable to the person you are today. The frequency hasn't changed your future overnight. It has changed the way you understand your past, and because of that, the future suddenly looks filled with possibilities instead of limitations. But here's the final mystery before everything comes together. If the hidden frequency has already changed the way you see yourself, then one question remains. Will you walk away from this moment unchanged? Or will you unlock the part of yourself that has been waiting to awaken all along? Now we've reached the end of this journey, but perhaps this is where the real journey begins. Throughout this video, we've explored the idea of a hidden frequency, not as a mysterious force somewhere beyond your reach, but as a symbol of awareness, growth, and the quiet transformation that happens within every person. The truth is, this frequency was never locked away from you. It was never reserved for a special group or hidden behind impossible obstacles. It has always been present, waiting for one simple thing: your willingness to notice it. The greatest discoveries in life often don't come from finding something new. They come from seeing something familiar with completely new eyes. Take a moment and think about the person you were 1 year ago, the challenges that once felt impossible, the fears that seemed permanent, the questions that kept you awake at night. Some of those problems may still exist, but you are no longer the same person facing them. Every lesson you've learned has quietly reshaped your perspective. Every setback has strengthened your resilience. Every unexpected turn has expanded your understanding in ways you couldn't have imagined at the time. That is the hidden frequency at work, not changing the world around you overnight, but slowly transforming the way you respond to it. Once your perspective changes, your choices begin to change, and when your choices change, your future begins to change with them. So before you leave this video, ask yourself one honest question. What if the door you've been waiting for isn't somewhere in the future? What if it's the next decision you make today? Perhaps the hidden frequency has already found you. Perhaps this message isn't here to convince you of anything. It is simply inviting you to pause, reflect, and become more aware of the life you're already living. Because every meaningful transformation begins with a single moment of recognition. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect, but right here, right now. And maybe that's the secret very few people ever
discover. The hidden frequency
was never something you had to search. For some, it was the quiet awareness that had been growing inside you all along, waiting for the moment you were finally ready to unlock it.